Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the show. It's been a hell of a year for doing this. I've had a lot of fun with a lot of great guests where I talk shop in many forms, and it's always educational for me. I started the show with a great guest, and I'm ending the show with a great guest. She is a writer and editor with her channel, No Nonsense Kristen. Including and has two books, beg your pardon, that we will be discussing today, as well as some of her videos and articles. She is the one and only Mrs. Kristen McTiernan.
Hello. Thank you for having me on, Justin.
I'm thrilled to have you here. I really am. I've been watching your show for a little while. You do some great work, which we will get into. But I always like to start these conversations before all that. So, who was Kristen before she became the writer and editor? There we go. I can talk English that we all know today.
Well, it was kind of an interesting upbringing. So I was a military brat. Both my parents were Air Force, and so I moved around quite a bit throughout my childhood, including England. Lived in Harrogate, North Yorkshire for 3 years as a child. Very happy memories. And then I joined the Marines myself when I got out of high school. I wasn't really feeling college. And then after that, I majored in English with the intention of being a teacher, a high school teacher specifically, and got all the way through that and got to student teaching and realized, nope, that's not a career path for me. Absolutely not. So what else does one do with an English degree? So I put out jobs nationwide. I had lovely parents, thankfully, who let me live with them while I figured out what I wanted to do. And the job I got was as a technical editor, once again, working for the military, but this time as a civilian. Okay. So I have been a full-time, thoroughly employed editor since 2008. And I was just doing that as my full-time job. And then in 2011, I decided, I'd kind of like a more creative outlet. And so it was around that time I started freelancing, just creating the nascent of what would become at some point the Nonsense Free Editor.
So I've got to ask, what is a technical editor?
So a technical editor it's not creative work per se. So in my case, I was working with flight manuals, highly technical aircraft specs. And this was not for a layman audience. This was for an expert audience, but you still had to make sure it was applying by the style guide, a lot of layout work, and just making sure that everything was standardized and correct. Whereas the type of technical editing and technical writing that I've been doing lately, and we'll say in the past 10 years, is more of translating highly complex information so a layman can understand it. That's really where a lot of technical writers and technical editors get a lot of work, because when you're dealing with engineers and medical professionals, they don't know how to talk to regular folks. So they employ a writer to do that for them.
Is it tough editing compared to regular editing? Is that a silly question?
For me, it's easier because there's less wiggle room. There's less decision making to make. So you're just like, okay, here's my style guide. This is where I follow it. And then a lot of times, they have their own made up words. And so it's like, well, I know it's not grammatically correct, but this is the made up word that this industry uses. Yeah. And so that's what we're going to do. And so you're using your very own style guide, and you just comply with the style guide, make sure everything's right, and it's good. Whereas editing someone's novel, so much of it is subjective, and there's a lot more back and forth.
Were you much of a reader outside of all this?
Oh, yes. I don't know how people will feel about this, but I was a very active member of the X-Men fan fiction online community, mostly as a reader, starting from when I was about 14 years old. So all of those old GeoCities, fan fiction forums, I was right there. I was Mystique 54. Hello to all my 90s friends. And we would just read other people's fan fiction. It was just horrible, so much of it, but it didn't matter because we loved it.
A lot of people badmouth fan fiction, but whenever I've seen it, I always considered it to be the ultimate form of a fan showing love, wanting to put their creative spin onto these things. So I've never had a problem with it. I mean, I don't know if it's quite the comparison, but I always heard the story that 50 Shades started out as Twilight fan fiction before it just went. But what about literary influences? Did you have many people whose books you loved without question?
Yes, absolutely. So, and on the young adult side, like many people of my age group, I loved the kind of murder slasher. So we're talking, Christopher Pike, R.L. Stein, Richie
Oh,
Tinker, loved them so much. And then when I got into high school, Mary Higgins Clark was huge.
mm.
John Saul was a big favorite of mine. I always liked him. King was too wordy then and now. So I really loved John Saul. He was one of my favorites. And then, of course, being a Star Trek Deep Space Nine fan, I also read a lot of the novelizations for Deep Space Nine. So that was how I spent a lot of my time.
You bring back happy memories by mentioning Christopher Pike.
Mhm.
I remember fondly reading a lot of his books, and especially when I sort of made the transition from young adult books, the young adult books he wrote,
Mhm.
to the adult books with the Season of Passage.
And
Because
the Cold One was another
yes, yeah, and the
one.
listeners as well.
Mhm.
But I always remember friends of mine, we'd sort of talk about these books because obviously Christopher Pike books, they were slightly thicker than your average young adult book. And then when I saw Season of Passage with a friend in the local newsagents, and I took it out of the shelf to find it was like this thick, and me and
Mhm.
him both went, "Whoa!" Obviously,
Well,
this was a different time back then, of course.
even with the Starlight Crystal, which was a very thin book, normal for young
Mm.
adults, by the time you finished it, you felt like you had lived 1,000 lifetimes. Like he was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
skilled writer.
Yeah, but there was one book he wrote. I think it was called The Guest, or I think it was called now. But it literally starts with a girl going into a party with a shotgun and blowing two people away, and you sort of think, "Damn, for an opening, that's
Mhm.
unbeatable." And again, you didn't find that with anyone else's books that I read at the time. And Christopher Pike, I just wish I knew where he was now, and I wish he was still writing because the dude was just unbeatable.
Mhm.
I've got fond memories of that, like I said. But yeah, you bring back happy memories with that one. Any others, or was it mainly that group of people?
It was mainly that group because we always went to the library. So there were a lot of other books and authors that I would have read, but none so much that I was like, okay, this is my author now. But you browse the stacks. I do miss that because I don't go
Mm.
to libraries or physical bookstores anymore. That
Did
was
you
always
ever did you ever write to any of the authors you loved?
no. Although I found out recently that Richie Takersley Cussick lives here in the Kansas
Oh,
metro area, and she did at the same time when I was in high school. I'm like, if I had known that, I would
mm.
have been the most relentless stalker. So I'm glad I didn't.
I ask because one of the authors whose books I read quite frequently was Terry Pratchett.
Mhm.
May he rest in peace. And when I was a teenager, I wrote a letter to him asking him for advice on being an author, and he responded.
Oh,
And yeah, yeah, and I still have the letter. It's somewhere in my mess of files over there, but I treasure it because he offered a great piece of writing advice, which I'll be honest, I've used quite frequently.
mhm.
But no, you bring back happy memories with that part particularly. So, how long did it take before you sort of started writing your own stuff outside of the editing?
Outside of like, because I majored in English, so we have to write short works of fiction, and so I was pretty accomplished. And then with the fan fiction, I did a lot of short works. But the first actual novel that I wrote, anything that was over, um, we'll say 5,000 words, was Sunder of Time, which at the time was originally titled Sunder. That took me 7 years to complete. From ideation to actually finishing it. So I finished it in 2014,
Hmm.
made every mistake in the world. I just threw it up on Amazon. I didn't market it. I told all of my friends and family to go buy it, even though they don't
Yeah.
read dystopian time travel. They did no homework on it at all, just completely shot myself in the foot. But
Mm.
I did, that's still my favorite book, even though I can acknowledge it's not technically the greatest one. It's still my favorite because it's my first.
Yeah, I remember the first book I wrote and put on Amazon, and I made a load of mistakes with it. And the one that still pisses me off when I think about it is that I didn't format it. It was basically a Word document I put
Oh,
up there,
no.
and I got away with it for a while until someone actually who paid more attention than most actually read it, and he gave me 1 star, and
Mm,
he did a review, and at the end of the review he apologized, and it was so crushing that I just took it off Amazon because I thought I can't be reminded of this mistake constantly.
mhm.
But so when what year was it, or that you sort of really started getting into editing people's works, fiction works, I mean?
Uh, 2011. Now
Mm.
the moneymaker at that time was doing people's doctoral theses and or master's theses and doctoral dissertations, which I
Mhm.
hated, but it paid the bills and it was consistent money.
Mm.
But then it was a treat. I'd get at least one novel a month. I'm like, yes, even though because I was working for an agency at that time, I didn't get to pick and choose my clients. And so a lot of the novels that came in, like a lot of the nightmare stories I have were from my agency days. It was just awful. So terrible. But it did teach me a lot of, okay, well, why is this awful? And you get
Mm.
practice not only judging, but being able to articulate what's wrong with it and how do you fix it? Because if you
Mhm.
major in English, you know what a good story looks like, but it's you got to sharpen that skill of explaining what's not working, why it's not working, and how to fix it. That those three things, those only come with practice and reading piles of shit. So, necessary trial by fire.
It's part of one of the drawbacks, I think, of self-publishing, and
Mhm.
because whilst there is some great diamonds in the rough out there, a lot of shit gets in as well. And I'm not going to bring up the picture because I know you've seen it enough, but that I don't even know how to describe it. The milk farm novel,
Ugh.
yeah, because you see that whole subgenre I didn't know existed until I heard a conversation with the author Nick Cole,
Mhm.
and he said about there being an audience for everything, and he pointed out that there was someone on Amazon, actually quite a few people I've since found out, who write stories about women having sex with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And at first, I thought he was not being serious, and then I
Mhm.
made the mistake of looking it up, and
Yeah.
you see this stuff, and I should point out for anybody watching this, this stuff all seems to be written by women
Mm.
with very cheesy pen names. But I know you're a lady, and I just sit there and think, okay, this is how we get such a strange name in the self-publishing world. I mean, what do you make of that stuff? Because I'm pretty sure they don't use editors to get that out, or do
Mm-mm.
they?
Well, some of them do. But what most of them do is there is a whole community, and the reason that they're so similar is because they're all in a community. And so what an author will do is, and by the way, this is not a criticism. This is one method that they do is they will have a whole cadre of beta readers and alpha readers, and they don't pay these people. These are people who are fans of the community. They read it, they write it. It's all they do. They will not read anything else. That's why they ask, "Is there spice?" And if the answer is no, they're not reading it.
Okay.
So it's this. I'm not going to say insular because it's huge, but they are a community of people. It's like, okay, I'll read your book and you can read mine and give you feedback. Oh, that's so great. And they don't get editors because they're not interested in feedback from outside the community because it's a for us by us kind of situation.
Hmm. So, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because I know you've talked about this before, is the introduction of AI into the creative sphere.
Mhm.
Uh, and I know that you have offered or still offer an AI writing service in which you
Mhm.
edit it at the same time. I'm curious what your thoughts are on AI, because as I said, the reaction I've seen from a majority of the creatives whose circles I sort of move in and out, a lot of people are against it.
Mhm. I am AI neutral in
Okay.
that I'm not going to judge you if you use it. I will judge the hell out of you if I can tell you used it.
Okay.
Because and part of the reason is because I've read so much shit, and I don't go on and on about this on social media because I don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Hmm.
But certain people I've seen very angry about AI, and I won't be your friend anymore if you use
Yeah, I've
AI.
seen that.
I've read your shit, bro, and what AI pukes out is better than what you put out.
Mm,
So maybe you shouldn't be so sassy online. I don't say that because that would be mean.
yeah.
But that's part of the reason why I'm so AI neutral
Yeah.
because storytelling is what's important.
Mm,
It's the story. And if you ask AI, can you write me a thriller that involves these three plot elements? the plot that it comes out with is going to be really simple. It's going to be not great. It's just going to be entirely unoriginal. So,
Mm,
but if you're a person and you have, okay, here are the characters I thought up, here's the plot and the twist that I got up, and here's what's going to, and you put that, all of your ideas into AI, ask it to make you a fleshed out outline, maybe following the snowflake method, maybe following the save the cat method, then it will create something fabulous for you because you're using your own fabulous original human ideas,
mm.
giving it to that. It gives you the structure. And depending on the model you use, maybe it'll even help you with the writing or at least getting a first draft. So if you want to do that, fine. But if you have no discernment, if you have no writing skills, if you don't know what's expected of your genre, just prompting the thing is not going to create anything worth reading at all.
Can AI edit?
No, but I say that because it doesn't follow directions correctly.
Okay.
So, for instance, if I can upload 3 paragraphs and say, "Okay, this is all in past tense. I would like you to make this into present tense writing, change nothing else." It will disobey me and it will rewrite stuff
Hmm.
and add some AI tells. And the longer the work that you upload and ask it to, make these kind of editing changes to, the more hallucinations it will have, the more creative license it'll take, and you'll find some stuff in there that wasn't what you wanted. So obviously it can correct your grammar, things like that, but be very cautious with anything like that because it just likes to add things. It gets real creative with it.
So does it make editing and AI work very tricky?
Not okay. So when you say editing and AI work, do you mean like somebody had ChatGPT write something and then they're having me edit it?
Yes.
It doesn't make it tricky. It makes it it makes it exhausting because not only is it, it's not just M dashes, it's not this, it's that, the AI cadence, once you hear it, you can't ever unhear it. So
Yes.
it's a lot of rewriting, a lot of times. So for a normal developmental edit, I charge 2.5 cents per word. For an AI edit where you just had Chat GPT spit you something out and you want me to fix it, that costs more because I'm basically rewriting everything. So yeah.
So when you see reviews of, let's say, a series or a movie, and the critic goes, "You'd think the script was written by ChatGPT," do you get a little chuckle out of
Yes, and they're probably right. It probably was.
that? Because my stance on AI is quite a mixed one, because I don't like people using it to make a book with, but at the same time,
Mhm,
if they're going to do it and they can get away with it, then hey, whatever. But when it comes to using it for covers, as much as I don't like it, I do understand why authors do it, because I've
mhm,
I've talked with other authors who have been ghosted by their artists,
mhm,
or they have the complete work, and when they ask for a change, suddenly uh, they're difficult to get hold of, or they want
mhm,
more money to make these changes. I remember one author saying as soon as it was seen as acceptable to use AI, they were going to use it constantly because it would save them so much money. I
mhm,
understand that. But where I've also seen it sort of ruffle feathers is in the audiobook narration community. And because, as you said earlier, I've seen one author say, "Well, if you're going to champion this, I'm just going to block you because
mhm,
this is costing my friends money." And again, I get that perspective,
mhm,
but I spoke to one author earlier in the year who writes spicy romance novels, and she used Amazon's virtual voice to make her audiobooks. And I asked her what made her use it. And her response was more than reasonable. She said, "I'm a full time working parent. I don't have the money for this. And I wanted to see my works out there. So I
mhm.
used it." And I remember listening to the sample of one of these books through Audible. And the only reason I knew it was AI was because it was advertised as such. It was a very flawless performance. I mean, what do you think to stuff like that with covers and voice narration?
Covers, as long as it looks good, I'm for it, and especially for audiobooks. And narrators are not going to hearing this, but I put audiobook narrators in a similar category as actors.
Okay.
This is a performance. This is an art. So, but it is an audio only art. That's the
Mm.
problem. And the presentation that I saw given by Spoken at Author Nation blew me away.
Okay.
So I can understand how audio narrators are terrified
Mm.
because it's so good. It's so good, and you can't tell. And the tools that you have to correct the initial output, which isn't quite perfect, are so good right now, and they're going to get even better. Um, and musicians are having a hard time as well. But does that mean we should just not use it? Because for my next book, it's going to have to be a full cast for the Twitter Crush. That would
Mm.
cost at minimum $20,000. So does that mean my primarily male, primarily online, they don't read a lot of novels. They like to read sometimes, but if it's not audio, they're not buying it. Should I say, well, I guess I I don't get to give my audience what they want because I don't have $20,000 just sitting around? No. I'm
Mm.
going to use the technology available to me.
Because I remember this was a few years ago now. I asked a lady who narrated audiobooks what she charged for one of mine, and she come back with, I think it was almost $3,000.
Mhm.
And don't get me wrong, I fully appreciate that narrators need to make a living because me personally, I love audiobooks.
Yeah.
I listen to many more of them than I do read Kindle books. And when she said that, I didn't say this directly to her, but I thought it. I looked at the response and I said, "Is your microphone fucking gold plated or something?" Again, don't get me wrong. I love audiobook narrators with a passion
Mhm.
because I think they do great jobs, especially some of the legendary ones out there.
Mhm.
But it sounds horrible, but I'm not surprised why some people will turn to this AI voice narration. But
Well, having recorded my own audiobooks, I understand why it's that expensive. It takes so much time.
mm,
The multiple takes, you can only record for about 2 hours at a time before your voice starts to go,
yes,
and then the edits afterward, the mastering up it's exhausting. So even though it technically didn't cost me anything,
hmm
I can't do it. I don't have the time. The time itself is costing me money. I can't do it.
mm. So the first thing I wanted to mention was, of course, the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Now, I've been watching this for a little while now. I haven't got through every video, but you do some great work, especially uh, interviews like this,
Mhm.
the AI one, and of course the Author Nation review. How much work goes into maintaining a YouTube channel like this? Because me only, I primarily stream
Mhm.
because I don't think I have the skill set to make a video. But you put a lot into this, and I got to say, it is some great work.
Mhm. Well, I'm actually in the process of hiring, a video VA at the moment simply because it's a huge time suck,
Hmm.
recording the interviews and then recording the intros to the interview, which is just me talking, and then editing and then uploading it, and then sometimes YouTube is like, "Oh, well, this isn't ad friendly because you said pee words. Would you like a manual overlay?" Yes, I would like a manual overview, for goodness sakes. Now, luckily, I haven't had anything demonetized. I haven't had any strikes or issues. But I had originally planned on starting a second channel that was, video essays about movies.
Yes.
And on the first one I put up, I got a copyright claim, which means I would earn no money from it because of a 2-second clip of music that you could barely even hear. It was background music, and I paid for a license to this music. It was part of the stock thing, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
"It's gonna be this big of a pain in the ass. I'm not." So I abandoned that.
No, I
No.
understand that. But one of a couple of things to talk about with the channel. One of the things I like is how you talk about constantly books written for boys and men.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think you've probably answered this question already, but is it down to the fact you recognize you have a lot of men as your readers?
I don't honestly know which one came first. I don't know if I had such a huge, male audience before that first video came out, and that's why it resonated,
Hmm.
or if it was that video that brought me the huge because I didn't check my stats, honestly, because before I had that one video, I had just hit 10,000 subs, and I'd never checked my breakdown. I just knew that most people were in America, and that was it.
Hmm.
And then after that, I'm like, holy shit, let me look at these numbers. And it was only then that I saw, 93% men. Oh my God. But I would say that it's notable because male interests, even though they are male interests, women also like male interests. So
Hmm.
we like to go see Indiana Jones. We like to have these, swashbuckling men. Whereas with chick stuff, men don't like chick stuff. And that has always been the truth, So if you're
Yeah.
gonna, hun, come see 27 dresses with me, you basically have to like bribe him with a pie to get him to come. But when the new horror movie has come out, you're just as excited as he is. So that's always been the case. So the fact that
Mm,
we are removing these traditionally male stories hurts everyone. I'm like, why would you do that, Kathleen Kennedy, as one candidate is like, no, we don't want more chickified stuff. I like women's interests being their own thing. Because when I go
yeah.
to 27 addresses, why is there a dude in here? You're ruining the vibe. Get out,
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned Kathleen Kennedy, because I think she's one of the best examples of someone that failed upwards.
Mhm.
And you look at the first three Star Wars films, the Disney Star Wars films, I'm going to call them, and each one took successively less money than the one before it. And I think that was very telling, because I mean, I said about this to a friend of mine, between um, The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, which was, and I'm proud to say I pirated that film, and I'm glad that
Good.
I did. There was a profit difference of $700 million, and I can understand why. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm going to come to this later on because it's a good talking point. But one of the things I loved that you covered on your channel was about the book promoter scammers,
Mhm.
because I had one try it on with me through my DMs. I think this was last year, maybe, and it was a very polite woman, and you can always spot them now because they always have these very professionally looking photos done for their Twitter handles. And I realized straight away she was after something, but I let the conversation play out because I wanted to see where it was going. And she
Mhm.
was very nice, very complimentary. And then she suddenly asked about promotion work, and I said, "Well, I haven't um, thought about it much." And then she offered her services at so much money per service, and I realized, yeah, this is bullshit. And I deleted the chat and blocked her. And I had several more follow me since who were trying to get me to sort of take the hook, and every time I just wouldn't do it, and then
Mhm.
they'd unfollow me and I presume scuttle off somewhere. I
Yep.
mean, when did you first become aware of that? Because it is a deadly trap.
Well, when I first came on to Twitter, I don't know how, but the algorithm kind of put me in with the copywriters.
Hmm.
And so most of the content I was getting pitched on my feed was, okay, here's how to send cold DMs, here's how to send and this is pre-Elon, this is in the Jack days. And so that got a lot
Hmm.
of traction. So even though I wasn't actively trying to be a copywriter, it's like I kind of absorbed all of the tricks just from what was on my feed. So thanks to the algorithm for that. And so the first time they started popping up in my DMs, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And
Hmm.
instead of ignoring them or blocking them, I would critique their stuff. It's like, obviously, English is not your first language. Here's the phrase that you did. You need some sauce, young man. And stop trying to be a girl. You're fooling nobody.
Oh,
And
brilliant.
so, the message got out because I hardly ever get those anymore, ever,
Mm,
because they know it's like I'm gonna make fun of you because your stuff is crap.
that's brilliant. I like that. And one of the other things you do with your channel, which I appreciate, is interviewing other authors.
Hmm.
Because recently I watched your interview with John Delarose,
Hmm.
who himself is quite a character.
Yes, yes,
Uh,
he is.
but the one that I liked the most, and this one was a unique interview because you couldn't conduct it on your channel; you had to do it through Substack, which was John Douglas,
Hmm.
and that shows to me the bullshit that YouTube can get away with, because the guy did nothing wrong with his channel getting banned. It was because he interviewed someone else who was banned, which I didn't realize was a thing they could do now.
It shouldn't be. And, I kind of took some flack for taking the coward's way out, but it's like the majority of my clientele comes from YouTube. It would be a
Hmm.
huge wound to my business if I were to lose that channel.
Mm,
But I was able to put them on Substack, and then now I've got the audio only podcast, and I'll be putting John
yep.
on there as well, which is I'm so glad that I can do that. And it really chaps my ass. And there was just no reason. And then when when they were like, oh, we'll give you amnesty, he had tried to put in for that. And they were like, nope. It's like, he didn't even do anything wrong. What is
Yeah.
wrong with you?
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why, even though, like I said, I just live stream interviews and little chats with my friends,
Mhm.
I'm still careful because the wrong thing can get this punted.
Right.
And again, I just stream interviews, but I've really come to enjoy doing this because I
Mhm.
enjoy these sorts of conversations. So yeah, fair play to you for that. And like I said, I hope the channel continues for a long time because you do some great work with it.
Mhm.
Um, but then, of course, we come to this little work of yours. Now, first thing I'll say is you did a fantastic job narrating this. I know what you just said earlier, but you really did.
Mhm.
Um, but I wanted to ask you, first of all, talk to me about how someone can make money with a side hustle doing editing and copy editing.
I would say, because a lot of the people are saying, oh, well, with AI, it's just going to destroy. I don't think it will, especially from editing, copy editing, and ghostwriting, because
Hmm.
there will always be the market for good. The important part here is good, human written and human reviewed work.
Yes.
And even people who are creating their works with AI, like, several of my clients are, they especially need someone to look over it and make sure, especially if it's a nonfiction work. Okay, did they hallucinate these sources? Because AI does that. Uh,
Mm.
is it in the style guide? Grammar and syntax, that's usually fine. Are there AI tells? So there's no reason why you shouldn't create a services business and the whole thing of paid by the word is this is designed to facilitate your own writing. It's not designed to replace it because, being an author costs money.
Yes.
Hiring an editor costs money, getting a designer costs money. All of these things cost money, especially once you get after it's published, the promotions, the ads, anything like that costs money too. And so having that side income to kind of facilitate your author career is very important. And even though you start off making less,
Yeah.
as kind of a compensation for, I know I don't have a lot of reviews, I don't have a lot of names, but here's a lower price than you're going to get anywhere else. You can still start. It's not going away, I don't think,
Right.
in my opinion.
So this is probably a very pedestrian question, but for those who don't know, what is the difference between editing and copy editing?
So copy editing is a specific type. So when I offer services, I say line editing.
Hmm.
Technically, line editing and copy editing are two separate phases, but for fiction, you don't need those two separate phases. For nonfiction, you do, because copy editing is you're checking for style guide, you're checking for sources, things like that, standardization, kind of those technical issues, where
Yes.
line editing is polishing the text, making sure that it sounds beautiful, that it's concise, things like that. It's phrasing assistance. But when I'm doing fiction, or I'm not following a style guide,
Mm.
um, so I just kind of encompass both of those under my line editing service.
So when you say AI has a tell,
Mhm.
what is that?
The cadence of it when it speaks, even when you instruct it, don't use metaphors, don't use similes, which it overuses a lot. Even when you tell it not to do that, the kind of cadences of its sentences, you start to hear it.
Mhm.
And so it has those tells. And then, of course, there's the M dashes, which everybody knows. And it's not just that we're doing this. It's that, it loves to phrase that. It doesn't matter what LLM it is. I don't know. And it's because the data sets that they trained on were very largely from social media. And so the copywriting, the copy pasting, and this is true from the most prolific posters were MLM girlies. And so you have these emoji,
Oh my
chock
God.
full of emojis with those M dashes, with those. It's not this, it's that. This is all your leggings saleswoman um, paragraph long thing. That's what it was trained on. That's why it all sounds the same. That's why.
Mm.
You can
Okay.
blame the Avon lady for that crap.
So as I said, you did a great job narrating the audiobook.
Mhm.
Uh, it's something like it's just shy of 3 hours long.
Mhm.
So how long did it take you to record and edit these files?
Weeks. It took weeks, and that's a really short book.
Mm,
Um, but, you can only do it for a few hours at a time, and then, of course, you screw up, and I use a program called Descript, which made it easy because they have a studio sound thing, which removes your little throat clicks and mouth noises, and if there's, your air conditioning in the background. So that made it a lot easier.
yeah.
When I did my fiction audiobook, I had to stand in my husband's closet and sweat my ass off because I had to turn off the air conditioning. It was awful, so I don't have to do that anymore, thank God.
Oh, wow. Oh,
But
that's
yeah.
brilliant. So do you think you'd record more of your audiobooks? Because like I said, you did a great job.
No, what I'm planning to do, and Spoken allows you to either choose from actual human narrator cloned voices, and then they get paid, kind of like using stock photos,
Hmm.
or you can clone your own voice, which is what
Ah,
I will be doing. So for my future nonfiction works, I will be using my own cloned voice,
okay.
because it should be me.
That's fair enough. I totally
Mhm.
understand that. But there was one bit I loved where you talked about some of the crap you've edited. And there was
Mhm.
that one part where you literally sent the note to the author, dude, really? And I'm sitting there listening to it, and I literally burst out laughing because I thought to myself, God only knows what it was she was talking about. I don't suppose
Mm.
you remember, do you? Or is it stuck in your brain?
I think I can't remember. It might have been the one that made me quit the agency where this novel was, it was wildly racist. Basically,
Oh,
it was this thing where, white people were the, descendants of Cain, and the reason that we are colored the way we are colored is because we are so evil that light bounces, it reflects off our skin. Light cannot penetrate our skin. That's because we are so evil. I'm like, I beg your finest pardon. And it was in book 2. I'd already done his book 1, which was horrendous, and then I got to that part, I'm like, "What? What? What the fuck?" So, yeah.
all right.
Woo.
I'm not really sure what to say to that. So
Yeah, I wasn't either.
yeah, that's all right then.
Mhm,
So on to your latest work, uh, Pop Culture Heretic.
mhm,
Now, this was a great read, uh, and like I said, like I've said, sorry, with other people's books, I don't cover every aspect of it because I just don't agree with spoiling it. I
mhm.
want people to read it, and in this case, anyone watching, read this book. It's great. Uh, Tell me about its genesis.
So this is a compilation of the essays of my favorite essays from my Substack Fictional Influence. So fictional influence is basically it exists to emphasize the importance of story
Hmm.
in forming our individual morality and then our culture and our cultural morality. That's kind of the thesis underneath it. So whether you are a writer or you are just a consumer, the stories that you are surrounded with have a lot bigger influence on you than your church or your
Yeah,
parents. No one wants to
yeah.
admit that, but especially living the way we do, I'm afraid it's true.
Hmm.
And so a lot of these essays are talking about the messages of movies or a collection of movies or a specific one. And it's like, looking at how that influences us as people and what we think is correct and what we think is
Hmm.
right and how we act, even though, oh, I'm a religious person and here's what I believe religiously. That's not in the Bible, but it is in this collection of movies,
Yeah.
things like that.
Because the three examples I'm going to talk about um, are all obviously based on recent fiction. So the first one is to do with Daredevil and the Netflix series.
Mhm.
And I say the Netflix series because that was fantastic.
Yes.
I have not watched the latest series on Disney, and I won't
Right.
um, for reasons I'll get into later. But there's a great quote you've got here. Matt Murdock shows us that real Christian faith is not just a still small voice, it is what we do and how we treat each other. That's a perfect quote to sum up that show because I often think that Matt, Foggy, and Karen were kind of like a holy trinity in a sense.
Yes.
They kept each other afloat, especially as the series progressed. and I think it was so criminal that that series ended the way it did.
Mhm.
I mean, what do you think when you look back on it?
I love that, and it's not just the Daredevil series, but also because we had Matt Murdock appear in The Defenders as well,
Oh yeah.
and just the storyline where it's sad to say that it was controversial, but the fact that says yes, he is unapologetically Catholic specifically, and
Mm-hmm.
they didn't water that down at all. Where just that kind of guilt and that faith plus works I must do. It's not enough to
Mm-hmm.
just think and feel and oh well, you have to do something
Mm.
and to demonstrate that. And I especially love the friendship aspect, like you
Yes.
said, where you have friends who are like, okay, I know what's right and I know who you are, and I know that you are trying to justify doing what you know is wrong
Yeah.
because you want to facilitate what you know to be sin.
Mm.
Where you have friends confronting their
Yeah,
friend
yeah, yeah. Well, there's
instead of
that.
the constant affirmation you see in
Yes.
these ridiculous shows.
Well, there's that great scene where Foggy confronts him after he finds out he's Daredevil, and at
Yep.
one point he goes to him, "How many fingers am I holding up?"
Yep.
And Matt just sits there and goes, "Just one." And you could sort of hear the guilt in his voice. And my wife and I, we absolutely loved that series. And
Mhm.
when the Defenders came along, it's the only time we've done this. We binged the whole thing in one day, and it was again, it was some great work, and it pisses me off what's become of it since. I mean, especially what they did to Daredevil in that She-Hulk series, which again
Uh-huh.
I did not watch, and I will not watch. But seeing the clips alone was just enough to make me grind my
Yeah,
gears.
that's the disrespect.
Oh
It's
God, yeah.
unforgivable.
But I mean, the one thing that sort of gives you sort of clarity about the way a lot of the Disney writers approach this stuff was that compilation that was going around from the writers of various Disney shows or movies, where they openly said we never read the source material, we weren't going to. Um, and with Echo, for example, which was another series I steered well clear of.
Yeah, I didn't even bother
Yeah,
with it. And that's saying something because I have seen every single thing that Vincent D'Onofrio has done
yeah.
from the time he was a young man. I have never missed. If Vinny D's in it, I'm going to see it.
Hmm.
I did not watch Echo. That
But
such is my loathing of those
I
Disney writers.
but what pissed me off was the interview with the writer where she openly said, and I believe it was a she, unless I'm wrong, but she found Echo's original ability in the comics, where she echoes other people's fighting styles, hence her
Mhm.
name, to be ridiculous. And I thought, no, it wasn't, because I actually remember I was collecting the Daredevil Marvel Knights run where she first appeared, and I thought she was a fascinating character, and to see them do that to it, yeah, no, thank you. I steered well clear of it. And the fact that
Mhm.
allegedly they cut the series down from, I think, 7 episodes to 5 was
Mhm.
itself very telling. Um, but then you also addressed part of the Punisher series, which again I enjoyed. I wish it had been more violent because it doesn't do much in the way of punishing.
Mhm.
But John Bernthal was fantastic.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and you talk about the doctor's need, Krista Dumont's need to fix Billy Russo, which has
Mhm.
got nothing to do with him, of course, having that divine body. And it
Oh my
go
god,
and it
yeah.
go and it goes into that whole thing of I could fix him.
Mhm.
And the way you ended that sentence, because Billy is she describes Billy as different now and deserves redemption. This, even though I read this on my Kindle and not on the audiobooks, obviously there isn't one, I laughed out loud because your finishing line of this was fantastic, where you go, "Yes, of course he does, you thirsty bitch."
Mhm. You're not fooling anybody.
And the thing is, because I watch your YouTube, I literally heard that in your voice, and I thought
Mhm.
that's fucking brilliant because it
Yeah.
is funny how even though the guy is a clear-cut villain, the women just go,
Oh, yeah, and then he also played, the Darkling in the Shadow and Bone series on Netflix, which they actually in my opinion, they did a better job adapting it than I liked it better than the books, which is
mm.
highly unusual, but yeah, and he
Mm.
played a baddie there too, it just glorious. Full marks.
Yeah. But then also you address the first season of The Boys,
Mhm.
and you say it's a full-blown meditation on the Western male. So can you go a bit deeper into that?
What a disappointment that show turned out to be
Oh
because
God, yes.
that was what struck me with season 1 because we were in peak woke at that point when it
Yeah.
when it premiered, but it did not flinch from the masculine nature of the boys, the white masculinity. Yes, they were white, but they were not effeminate, except for Huey, of course, but he was meant to be the contrast. It's like, look, you ridiculous white American male. Oh, I don't want to do anything. I wouldn't want to be problematic. And then, Frenchie and Billy come in and they're just like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I'm going to walk around. I'm going to take off my shirt. I have chest hair. I'm not shaving it. I'm going to blow stuff up. I'm going to swear. I'm going to have sex with people I'm not married to. I don't give a shit. And it's like, wow, you didn't see that then. And it was just it was a throwback to the early aughts where, we had 300 and Sin City and just that in your face masculine destruction.
I love
And then with the end of season 1, when Billy finds out that his wife is alive and had given birth to Homelander's son, like that is that's a kick to the balls. It's like what he thought he was being the heroic husband to, defend his wife. And then he finds that. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, it was wonderful. And then of course they had to apologize for that in the subsequent seasons and make them all bitches, which is awful.
But I noticed the beginnings of that in season 2, because first of all, I forget the Nazi character's name, but they made him a her for the series.
Oh, okay. See, I never read the graphic novel, so I didn't realize she was
I never read them, but I have a story about it I'll get to in a bit, which I found out because also I believe A-Train was race swapped.
Okay.
Presumably so they could do that scene where he's in the store and has she gone? Oh, there she is.
Okay.
Yeah. Presumably so they could do that scene where he's in the store and he's getting profiled by the guard.
Yeah.
But it was when I forget her name, when she's talking about SJWs, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh, you can't be serious." Yes, that's it. And then the fact that the showrunner Eric Kripke, if I'm saying his name right, refused to kill Queen Maeve because he didn't want to follow the quote unquote shitty trope of killing a gay character. And you think, dude, seriously, it's a character.
Yeah, gay people die. They have life. Yeah.
And then you see him give that speech about fuck MAGA during one of his acceptance speeches, and you think, all right, tell half your audience to piss off, go for it. Which, by the looks of the latest series figures, some of them did. But I always laugh when I think about the boys, because many moons ago I was at a convention near where I live, and they did a panel, 20 Years of Vertigo, and Garth Ennis was part of it. And I got my turn to ask a question, and I tried to sound like an intelligent interviewer asking about comic book adaptations. I came off sounding like an absolute idiot. But when Garth got his turn to talk, he sat there and went, "The rights for Preacher and the Boys sell all the time, but nothing ever happens. This works great. Fast forward a few years and you've got a series of each, and he's an executive producer on them." And I remember sitting there thinking, gee, I wonder what changed about that. But streaming in itself has become obviously more prevalent in people's lives, and there is a lot of slop on these providers. And one of the things I've become aware of, and I'm guessing you have too, is the whole concept of second screening writing. What do you make of it? Is it just lazy writing, or is it just writing that accommodates the fact that people are going to be sitting there and will randomly just start doing this?
Yeah, I think it's fulfilling a specific need. So they're saying, okay, this specific picture is for people who want background noise and who aren't super picky. Okay, so I just watched the Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein on Netflix.
I haven't seen that yet.
That was not designed for second screening, because they really put in the work with beautiful costumes, with the acting was top notch. It was gorgeous. It was a treat. This was designed to be watched. And it's almost like with the trailers and with the promo they do, you can tell it's like, that's designed to be second screened. That's not. So I think they know that their one audience is bigger than the other. And I'm sorry to say that the second screen audience is bigger. And they're just making the correct business decision. It's like, okay, what will keep you subscribing? The background noise that you can second screen, and if you miss a scene, it's not going to be the end of the world.
Yeah. because and one other thing that some friends and I have discussed with regards to a lot of the stuff coming out now, be it in the mainstream cinemas or, of course, on streaming, is how shit some of the writing is. And I'm just an amateur writer at best. I fully admit that. But sometimes I hear a line spoken and I just think, oh, really? Now,
Mhm.
I'm guessing as an editor, you've probably heard that a lot more than I have.
Mhm. Well, I'm a little more forgiving about it because I was raised, at on the floor of watching, Murder, She Wrote, and I don't know if you've ever
Ah,
have you rewatched that as an adult?
yes, I have.
Oh, the dialogue, especially in the later seasons. I'm watching like, "Really?" It's so bad, but it was kind of and I think, Angela Lansbury made a point of employing people from the stage world because, that's it's more consistent. She wanted to make sure that they got enough SAG credits to retire, and so a lot of that cheesy, over the top acting and that ridiculous on the nose, dialogue, it comes from the stage, and so I was kind
Mm,
of raised on that. So I'm a little more forgiving if they're like, "Oh, it's a little cheesy." I
yeah.
think the problem comes in with streaming shows is the way it's structured now, it's not episodic. Now they're making basically an 8 to 15-hour movie.
Yeah.
And I think in those instances, it becomes more glaring. It's bad dialogue, and it doesn't belong there because it looks like a feature film, but
Mm,
they're structuring the dialogue like an episodic TV show where they figure people don't remember from last week. It's like you
yeah,
can't
yeah.
have both. You need to pick one or the other.
Because one of the people who I've become a massive fan of is Taylor Sheridan.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely love Yellowstone. I binged
Mhm,
the whole thing of that. I love Landman. There are some great dialogue scenes in Landman. Of course, Tulsa King to a slightly lesser degree. I haven't
mhm,
seen Lionesses yet,
mhm,
but his stuff does strike me as more adult entertainment. I was talking about this with a friend recently because some of the written dialogue scenes, specifically in Yellowstone, they're fantastic. And I think one of my favorite scenes in Yellowstone, I don't know if you all remember this one or not, is where Rip and Beth are sitting on the roof and she asks him, "What did you spend all your money on?" And he tells the story about buying the gravestones for his mum and brother. And it was just such a sweet moment because, again, it was so well written, but it gave you a little glimpse into this guy's soul, this
mhm.
hardened exterior. And a lot of these great dialogue moments in shows like you just don't see anywhere else anymore. And I think Sheridan is one of the few great screenwriters left in that whole industry. What do you think?
I have not seen any episodes of any Taylor Sheridan show.
Oh,
I have only consumed them in segments on Instagram. So I've seen a lot of Rip because a lot of the girlies on
yeah,
Instagram
oh
are
yeah,
but yeah, I've never seen one. It's really hard for me to get into shows because I know the time commitment.
yes.
So it's like, "Ugh, I'll watch it someday." So I've got all of those on my list, to be clear, but
I'll,
just never watched
Landman in
one.
particular is fantastic.
Mhm,
But again, I won't go too much into that yet since you haven't seen them. But um, I do laugh at the whole aspect of legacy sequels
mhm,
because I forget who it was, but I think someone just described them as an exploitative way of making money because you can tell a new story with very little connection to the old stuff, and the
mhm.
old cast is more than happy to jump on board because it's an easy paycheck for them. They don't give a shit. And one I avoided it when it came out because I thought no, thank you. Was the latest. I know what you did last summer.
Mhm,
Now, I fully admit I've seen the first two because one was round a friend's house and one I'm ashamed to say I saw in the cinema because A, I had nothing better to do that day, and B, I knew Jennifer Love Hewitt was going to appear in a bikini. So
mhm,
thank you very much. Um, and I didn't bother with the latest one, but the clip started doing the rounds on YouTube, and I watched the scene where one of the killers is revealed, and spoiler alert, it's a woman, which is
mhm,
not a problem. But when I'm going to show you the clip now because I thought you'd want to get a laugh from this as much as I've cringed. Uh, the killer is revealed, and one of her friends calls her a crazy psycho bitch. And her response just made me roll my eyes. And I'm just see what your thoughts to it are. So I've got it stopped here. This is the killer.
Mm-hmm.
And listen to what she says after she's insulted.
Eva.
You're a crazy psycho bitch!
You shouldn't call women crazy, Eva. It's so reductive. A strong, empowered woman takes control of her destiny, and then suddenly she's labeled as crazy. Now, are you gonna keep interrupting me, or are you gonna let me fucking finish?
The whole interrupting thing is so annoying. Oh my God.
Yeah. But when you know that you see stuff like that, and again, I fully admit I'm an amateur writer. I probably shouldn't be judging people, but nobody in the world talks like that.
Yeah.
And you have to wonder how some of these people get into the industry, which of course harkens back to your comment about Kathleen Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I've had conversations with people about this. I just don't watch a lot of the modern stuff now because of how crap some of it's written.
Well, I think the problem is, and with that scene in particular, you're supposed to be scared. You're supposed to be scared of this person. This is a crazy psycho bitch. You don't know what she's going to do.
Yeah.
But the problem is, how do you make someone afraid of that little girl who's an actor / model? She weighs maybe 115 pounds. And who cares if she is holding a hook, because there's 2 of them and 1 of her, and neither of them have a firearm. So those 2 girls could easily take that weapon. And instead of doing something to fix that verisimilitude problem, we'll just distract you with, don't you remember the time when you were interrupted in a meeting, and didn't that make you so mad? And isn't it so annoying when people call out your emotional reaction to it? It's like, instead of doing their job, they're doing someone else's job. And it's like, look, I'm sorry that you liked Kamala Harris and that she lost, but now is not the time to work through that.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. So one of the last things to talk about is, of course, your Substack. I've had thoughts about starting my own at some point. I don't know when, because I think they're very popular and I certainly like them. And yours is, at the time of this recording, the only one I subscribe to properly. And you wrote a great piece on your Substack, which I'll show the start of here, because obviously, again, don't want to spoil it. The retaking of Hollywood. Now, obviously, it focuses in part on Kimmel getting his ass punted off the air for a few days, paid holidays, it turned out to be, because he made that infamous joke about the Charlie Kirk assassination. And I'm going to pause here and say, if you are joking about this guy's death, the fact that he was shot in front of his wife and kids purely for having a conversation, really? And you make a good point that, again, I don't want to spoil the article for those who haven't read it, that essentially this blade of cancel culture that is very much present these days, it now cuts both ways. And I think Kimmel getting his ass punted off the air for a while was a wake-up call for quite a few people, because me personally, I don't like this whole cancel culture thing. I think you should be able to say whatever you want, within reason, of course, without getting your life taken away from you. And it always makes me think back to a conversation I had with a friend of mine who himself, for the record, let's say he was centre left, but he had some slight right leanings. And it was just after James Gunn had been cancelled. And I presume this was in retaliation for Roseanne Barr getting cancelled. And I said to my friend, I don't like this. To which he said to me, well, those on the other side, they showed us how to play this game. They can't moan when we play it as well. So what are your thoughts on the whole thing?
My thoughts, and this was kind of the direction of the article, is I feel like the money men are reasserting control, because we've had this little 10-year experiment where it's like, okay, well, all of Hollywood, or at least those pulling the strings, we are all hard left. What if we just were open about that? And we're going to be hard left and screw anyone who's not. Well, what they found with that little 10-year experiment is that's going to cost them a lot of money, a lot of money. And at some point, the investors started getting really nervous. And there was a kind of, okay, well, maybe we went too far, because at the old Hollywood system, they were control freaks. They controlled everything. You're not allowed to date anyone unless that we say it's okay, or you have to keep it hidden. God help you if you get pregnant out of wedlock. You're going to get an abortion, or you'll never work again. and I forget her name, but she was an actress and she got pregnant by Clark Gable. And the only reason she was able to keep the baby is because of how big she was. But even still, they sent her away to another country and she came back with her adopted orphan child that she always had to put a bonnet on because she inherited Clark Gable's famous ears.
Oh, right.
So they had massive control. And then when the studio system went away, they stepped away from that. And it's like, okay, do whatever you want, say whatever you want, the ask her more thing on the red carpet. Oh, tell us about politics instead of just your dress. And what they're finding out now is, no, that's not your job. Your job is to make me forget about my shitty life and make me want to be you. And if you're a loudmouth harpy who wishes death upon me, because actually I thought Charlie Kirk was a pretty nice guy, I'm not giving you my money. And anyone who likes you or agrees with you, I'm not giving them my money either. What they're seeing is, okay, this is costing us money. So you're seeing a lot of stars, they're not on social media, or if they are, it's PR stuff. So they're not doing what they were doing before because the money men are back in charge. And they're saying, no, your job is to tell stories. Your job is to distract the public. Your job is not to be yourself. Be yourself at a party where no cameras are present. That's it.
Yeah, because I remember seeing Droitic talk about this on Piers Morgan's show, along with the Critical Drinker, because he said because of certain people being on social media, Hollywood stars, and the way they behave, well, we know them now, and we stay away from a lot of their works as a result. And there was one example I read about which made me chuckle, was Billy Eichner, who wrote, directed and co-starred in, of course, Bros, which was the first full LGBT whatever,
the gay rom-com.
And he made the interesting choice to say beforehand, if you're a Republican, don't see my movie, and if you're a gay Republican, definitely don't see my movie because I consider you a traitor. And I just thought, whoa, dude. And as a response, it bombed. And now I think in part down to that, but also I think it's in part down to the fact that most straight blokes don't want to see a gay movie. And that's not me being homophobic in the slightest.
Well, there was also, and it wasn't just, a normal gay relationship. They also featured, the big orgy parties and swingers. And it's just like, so even if it was kind of, because that was the PR thing in the 90s. It's like they featured the normal gays. It's like, we just want to be married and have a family and go to parks on the weekend and not be given dirty looks for holding hands with our life partner. And that was all reasonable. And the overwhelming majority of people were like, yeah, that is kind of messed up that you have to deal with that. We're sorry. We don't want that. And, to come out and be like, oh, well, here's the first gay rom-com and also gross degenerate crap. It's like, okay.
And then on the other hand, you've got people like Matthew McConaughey saying about this, that's half your audience you're pissing away. Don't do that.
More than half, because being a former liberal myself, you can be for gay rights and gay marriage, but you don't want to see the gay stuff yourself because there's just kind of not a thing, and they don't say that out loud, but it's true.
Because I mean, even watching the Batman, the latest Batman flick, which I say is my favorite because I love the fact that it's so divorced from regular superhero continuity and he's on his own. There's that famous line where Catwoman says something like, so what, he's just another old rich white guy. And I just thought, because now that I hear that stuff and I'm very much aware of it, you can't unhear it. And there are times that part of me just is sitting there looking to see if it will come along. And I hate the fact that I've reached that place now. Which makes
and especially for her character, it's a shame because it could have been perfect because she's biracial and kind of that self-loathing, and then her white father was a prick. And so it's like, if not for that consistent pattern of these stupid lines being injected into places where it didn't belong, it would have been such a reasonable thing for that particular character to say. But because we've just seen the pattern, it's like, it pulls us out of it, even though, if the rest of Hollywood would have just behaved, it wouldn't have.
Yeah, because you also say near the end of the article that Hollywood folks are now looking for that Yellowstone type series or movie style entertainment that appeals to a mass audience. Because when you look at shows like Yellowstone, yes, they have the masculine men, but they also have the very smart, very beautiful, and more importantly, very capable women.
Mhm.
And I love that because everyone in that show goes through a rough ride.
Right.
And that's one thing that I love about it, that it does not discriminate about it. Especially Beth.
Oh
Fuck.
yeah, what a mess she is. I gotta tell you, I wouldn't put up with Beth, not for 1 second.
No,
So
but you see what she goes through, especially the attempted assassination in her office place, which again, I'll try not to spoil it, but if you haven't seen that scene, go see it because it's a hell of a scene. I love shows like that. They don't shy away from, subjecting both sides to it.
Mhm.
And because it's kind of funny that, it makes me think back to the X-Men Apocalypse, where you had the poster of Apocalypse holding Mystique like up like that,
Mm.
and allegedly there were people complaining about it. It's like, and then I think it was one of the UFC fighters at the time, I can't remember his name. She hit back at this whole thing, saying, "Well, we moan for equality, and then we moan when we get equality. There's just no winning anymore."
Yeah.
And I totally understand that. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
what do
like
you
either
think?
you're a member of the X-Men team and you
Hmm.
are just as capable as the male members, or you're not. Like, that was the
Hmm.
one thing I loved about, the Arcane show. In the f One of the first
Oh,
scenes
yeah,
was
yeah,
Vi taking a punch right to the face,
yes.
and, it was not a light punch, but okay, she's getting back up. That's why she's not only in the gang, she's in charge of the gang, she is her father's daughter, and she will get back up after taking a hit like that. And I'm like,
Mm.
"Okay, yes, we're rocking now."
Hmm. So, what's next for you?
Oh, so much. So in the next few months, I will be launching two things. One is a premium group for authors who are looking to market a book either right now or within the next few months. So this is not for everyone. This is just for people who need that advanced marketing help. That kind of insular private group, that's starting up. And then I will be kind of making a shift. So instead of having an author newsletter, Serial Journeys has been what I've been doing, my serial fiction and kind of my newsletter for about 2 years now. I am transitioning that into Black Market Fiction, which is a fully fledged digital magazine where
Okay.
it's not just my updates and not just my serial fiction, but it's also works by other authors. It's essays and things like that, and it's for a broader audience. It's not just for an audience of other writers. This is something I'm kind of modeling off of The Atlantic meets Evie, I guess,
Okay.
is the model I'm going for. So I'm really excited about that because I took professional photos yesterday for the first time since I was 22 years old. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then of course I have the Twitter Crush, my
Hmm.
permanently online thriller, coming to bookstores in late January. So that's what's coming up for me.
I love it. So I always like to end these shows with the Pivo questionnaire, which is my little nod to Inside the Actors Studio and the late great James Lipton. May he rest in
Oh,
peace.
yes.
So, Kristen, what is your favourite word?
Insouciant.
Oh, I like it. Explain.
I just love the way it sounds. I have never used that word in a sentence, but I heard it and I was like, "Oh, what a perfect word." And I've never had the opportunity to use it.
What is your least favourite word?
Come.
I won't go with that one. I won't ask about that. What turns you on?
Sincerity.
What turns you off?
Snideness.
What is your favourite curse word?
There's so many. Fuckface.
Can always count on the women for a good one. What sound or noise do you like?
Wind through the trees.
What sound or noise do you hate?
The smoke alarm that needs the batteries changed.
Yeah, heard that one a few times. What profession other than yours would you like to attempt?
I would have liked to have been a dancer.
Hmm. And what profession other than yours would you absolutely not like to attempt?
Finance.
And finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Hmm. You did it mostly right.
I like it. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can find Kristen's works on, of course, Amazon, Audible, and I believe through your own website.
Yes, coming soon.
Yeah. And of course, you can also find her on YouTube and on Substack, which I highly recommend you check out. Kristen, you're my final guest for this year, and this has been a great conversation and a great show. And I can't thank you enough for giving me your time today. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. I had a good time.
Ladies and gentlemen, take care. And aside from the end of year streams I do with my friends, I'll see you in the new year with a new guest.